Hello and welcome to this very special episode on our Top Coach channel. I have the pleasure here of meeting with some fellow coaches to integrate some of the learning that we hope happened as we attended the ACE program at the practitioner level, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. This is going to focus on module 1, so look forward to some other episodes to come down the pike. With me today here is Katsuko from Boston and Suzanne Worth from, sorry, I don't remember your town, but from Yukon. So Katsuko, take a minute and tell us just a little bit about yourself.
Hi, my name is Katsuko Sugiyama. I'm originally from Japan, but have been in Boston area in Massachusetts, USA for the past 30 years. I have, more than 25 years of a corporate work experience, and now I've been working as a global leadership coach for 10 plus years. And I've certified with the ACE Journey to Mastery, and I'm so happy that the Claudia is really keeping us in practice every week here.
Thank you so much. And actually, the kudos should also go partly to Suzanne, who proposed this endeavor. Suzanne, hi.
Hi everybody. So yeah, I'm Suzanne Worth. I'm in Yukon in Whitehorse, the northern part in Canada, as well. Immigrated from Germany in 1999, and have been working here in government in disability management, and have my coaching practice, or it started 5 years ago, doing leadership development. And I'm really interested in the neuroscience, how our brain works, and understanding that better, bringing the unconscious to conscious so we can be more intentional about what we want to achieve and the outcomes we want to reach. And with that, I joined the ACE program, and it really was in great alignment with my work. And I'm as well thankful for Claudia to started this group and continued, because practicing and reflecting on what and how we do, that's how we learn and grow. So it's really a forum for my own personal development and drawing on all the clever brains that are in the room.
Yes, fantastic. Thank you, Suzanne. Yes, at the beginning of the ACE program, I actually created on LinkedIn a private group for deliberate coaching practice as it related to the ACE group. I might actually open it up to a wider audience of coaches as we go forward, but that was the intent, and it was something that was working out really well. We met about once a week, different people from the group, to practice and challenge each other and discuss the topics. So that's how I know these lovely ladies. By the way, I never had the chance of meeting Katsuko while I was still living in the Boston area. You guys might all know that I emigrated from Luxembourg into various parts of Europe, but then also the US. I worked in Canada as well, just to then remigrate to Luxembourg about 11 years ago. So a lot of global movement here happening between us, also in line with the beautiful background that Katsuko is featuring here. So let's get to it. Before we do, actually, allow me just to do a share screen for just 1 second. I want to show this slide, and it just relates to copyright. We are going to talk here about, and is the slide showing?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. We are talking here about a program that we took, and this because we graduated from this program, we do have permission to refer to some of these materials. Again, we're not trying to sell anything here. We're going to take it as a basis for discussion as we integrate and refresh this learning that we did. We have graduated from this, so all three of us here are enhanced practitioners from the ACE Coach Accelerator Program. This was taught by David Goldsmith and David B. Peterson. Again, everything here is used with permission from 7 Paths Forward LLC. So there we go. We have done our due diligence. So now let's get to it. As you guys reviewed this, hopefully in preparation of this get together, what were the things that struck you? Maybe that you forgot, others that have become part of the way that you coach, or at least your internal thinking about things as you move forward. Any highlights, any surprises upon review? Maybe Katsuko, if you want to go first. You're on mute.
So review of the module 1.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I think that it is the beginning of the course. I was struck by both David is saying, the good to great. That's what we are hoping to by practicing, and then also getting the focus on the some of the concept. And one of the thing is efficiency, start fast and the impact, go deep. So that's an lasting change and strong. So there was 5 ways great coaches add value: and efficiency, impact, lasting change, scope, and systemic. So I know about how important and strong, but it also that the emphasis was on start fast and go deep quick, and then end strong. So that the some of the things that they showed is even 15 minutes we can really do good great coaching.
Yes. Yes, and actually, as I was reviewing that particular part, and Suzanne, feel free to chime in as well, was the idea that you do not get from good to great just with experience. There's a very strong intentionality, I think, that plays into that with trying to shift your coaching stance, your coaching mindset, things that you focus on, your approaches, not so much necessarily the tools, but I think in the way that you ask questions, in the way that you engage, and just maybe not doing certain things anymore that maybe you do as a good coach or a beginner coach. What is your take on this, Suzanne?
Yeah, just to sort of continue that train of thought, what stood out for me and I was reminded is to be intentional and set goals for myself in every coaching session to further my growth. So holding the dual focus on what does the client need, and having maybe a bit more playful approach to where do I want to develop, what do I want to try and focus on in the coaching session. And then during the coaching session, trying to hold the focus on the client's needs, do the reflecting and reframing, and then at the same time zooming out, and what do I do to foster and give the coachee what they need and where they need to go, and is there anything I can do differently, or is what I'm doing landing well, and why? So just having this 2-tier focus on moving the coaching conversation, so the client is getting what they need, and at the same time doing the reflection in my head. Well, for one, starting what do I want to work on or want to focus on, and then doing the conversation, sort of checking in, am I doing what I'm setting out to do? And is there anything I could do differently? Is it landing? Is it not landing? Why? And then taking time after as well to do a bigger reflection on how did the coaching session go, and writing things down just to help my personal development.
Fantastic. Oh, Katsuko is eager to get going. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, it's definitely that the Claudia, you named this group deliberate practice. That's exactly it. It's a from knowledge to the application that we need to practice, but it's the deliberate practice, right? That they are also saying about the action and reflection. That's the learning. So exactly what Suzanne said, that we have clients' needs in mind, but the experiment a lot of different way in action, and then reflections, and then keep the spiral learning for ourselves for the sake of the clients.
Because there's, to an outsider, coaching, the work that a coach does might look effortless, or maybe like, well, that person just sits there and asks a few questions. The questions make sense, it's like, what's the big deal? Well, but like you guys alluded, there's so much happening. I actually think that there's a three-pronged approach, because you have to be very aware of your client and the subject matter and what's being said and all that kind of stuff, but also the body language and so on, like truly this awareness of the client. You have to keep such a strong eye on yourself, because we want to avoid projecting, we want to avoid judging, even in our heads, people, we don't want to do it. We want to stay open, and it is true coaching stance and coaching presence. And then the third part of this is, I think you always have to wonder about the rapport, the relationship, the forth and back between you and the client. Are you going too forcefully? Are you going maybe not strongly enough? Are you losing the person? Are you giving enough space, and so on? So there's this relationship as well that you always have to wonder about. And I think that very often in unexperienced coaches, they can't do all that at the moment that there was a client. They might still worry about question lists and even listening to what the person is saying, and tools and practicalities of the coaching thing, that there's just not enough experience, maybe let's call it like that, but ability there to keep an eye on all these things, also from maybe a higher level. So that's, I think, also like what Katsuko said, this ability to step back and practice outside of a coaching engagement. You don't practice, the client shouldn't be like your guinea pig if you're absolutely not sure about a technique, or you just want to practice. And that's why I think having these ideas of deliberate practice is very important, that you go and very specifically try to hone in on either a subject matter or a technique or an area of that you need practice in. Either to make a strong point stronger, or maybe to address some underlying weakness. So that's what worked really well as well. So lots of iterations, variations on a single theme, rather than long drawn out coaching sessions.
And just to tag onto that, coach, the word is most often associated in the sporting world, right? You have a coach, you have a team has a coach looking from the outside in. And if you are an athlete, you are not only playing games, you are not only on the field of play. You practice, sometimes you pick apart movements to optimize certain, whatever, swim strokes, running techniques, throws, and then you bring it back on the field of play. So I really appreciate what you were saying, Claudia, that it's not only in the field of play or with our coaches that we practice, it's critically important to do it outside.
Yeah, I agree.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, I think it was nice to do this under the umbrella of a program that we all attended, because at least when we came together, we all kind of spoke the same language. We had exercises or tools that we wanted to practice on. So it was maybe already more structured. If you have a global coaching exchange, you might have coaches that come from vastly different schools of thought with maybe different models or different things. Ultimately, it doesn't matter, because you should be able to, you know, have these cross theoretical, you know, global kind of pieces of knowledge. But this facilitated just the exchange that we had to be able to do this rather quickly. And I know that Suzanne was in a lot of the sessions that I attended. It just happened that way, and it was really quite a pleasure, and also to see each other grow and get more proficient in certain aspects. Just for those that might be interested, the way that we structured this, and it was something we arrived to through doing it a few times, is that we picked a technique or a subject to practice. Then somebody was a coach, somebody was the coachee, the client, and the other people that were in the room were observers. And we would just get started trying to stay concise. We're talking 5, 10, no more than 15 minutes here to go through this. But if the goal was achieved after 2 minutes, or there was a question, we interrupted the flow, started afresh, or had a discussion, and then went into it again. So it was this very iterative, very, very focused kind of endeavor. And it seemed to be a method that, you know, people that came to these sessions agreed to and found benefit on. Of course, everybody find their own preferred way of doing this. So what else happened in module 1 that you might want to talk about here, or more to this topic? Deliberate practice, good to great, how to add value as a great coach. Actually, a good question is, does it really make a difference to the client whether you're a good coach or a great coach? Or in what way?
To me, it's really a coach who is not only talking the talk, but walking the walk. I mean, coaching is helping grow and develop. And I believe that's a journey that's never done. And at times there's more energy to focus on personal development, and then there's more external pressures. But I think as a coach, I mean, people develop and grow, life changes, circumstances changes, and the more, speaking for myself, I am in the space of self-development, the more I can understand and empathize with what my clients are going through. So it's a path that's going sort of side by side, and really speaks to the true collaborative approach that coaching is.
Very well said. Very well said. Do you maybe want to chime in here, Katsuko?
Well, definitely that it's much more beneficial for the client by being coached by the good to rather than good, but the great coach, because at the I think it's a depth of it, and I'm always amazed at the in the course that they will demonstrate that the coaching, and even in 10 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, that how much deep that they can go quickly by asking very focused and thoughtful questions.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be lengthy sentences. It just, so what more? Those really quick response that we also practiced.
Yeah, because we all definitely remember in the practicum sessions needing to do whole mini coaching segments with questions that were no more than 3 words. 3 words, people. But it makes you realize deep down to your bones how little you really need to say as a coach. It comes very visceral during that practicing, during that practice. And it is really true that sometimes, you don't need to say much, but you need to say the right thing at the right time. And that's the crux of the matter. And I think that, yes, there's the depth of that an experienced coach brings to the table, but also the breadth of knowledge and techniques and the ability to freely choose, to be just eclectic, and having this toolbox or this insight box or whatever that we carry around that is just so big, and we don't need to worry about holding so tight to any one framework, model, tool, way of questioning, and so on. There's an analogy that I like quite a bit, is you become able to dance to the music that's playing. Okay, because we never really know the state in which our client shows up and what the drama of the day or the week is that maybe you need to address first before you can get back and talk about the things that are on the larger arc of the engagement. And I think that with this maturity as a coach comes also just this confidence that you can handle what comes. And I think that reflects in the presence that you bring when you show up, and how safe the client can feel in this environment that you create for him, because it's just, he's safe to go where he needs to go in that engagement as well. Any reactions to that?
Well, exactly. I think that the what I'm thinking is from the client perspective, not all the client have a clear path of what he or she wants. Sometimes that the client comes with that well, I like to talk about this today, but then that when we are talking about it, it's we can discover peeled out and then the different underneath of it. But how we can do it, it's the giving the opportunity for the client to think. It doesn't have to be we need to explain things or anything like that, right? But also, as Claudia said, that it's not like it's so natural that great coach is so natural, the depth and width they have by listening to that. Okay, so how it's like it's deliberate, it's thinking, but what is coming out from me as a question, it's not like, okay, this is this, something like that, but by listening deeply, that it can come naturally, because that we have so much of the foundation in ourselves.
Just, yeah, continuing that thought in terms of mastery, a pro athlete is not thinking, how do my joints need to be to get the perfect stroke, or the 10,000 repetition happened before, and then it just flows. And I think it's similar from good to great coaching. The good coach is very much looking at themselves, having models to guide. And then with practice, you gain trust and self-confidence, more experience, building new neural pathways to do things differently. And then it becomes sort of your second nature, and it flows. And it's an everlasting process. I mean, masters never stop working on themselves and practicing.
And it's kind of like also, how attuned can you be to what is happening? Another piece of imagery that I like to use is the crayon box. The ones of us who like arts and crafts and art, all that kind of stuff, refer that maybe you started with a box of 12 colorful crayons. So you have your yellow and your red and your green and your blue and so on, but it's very limited. And there's only so much you can do with this limited amount. But then as you practice and graduate, now green is not just green. And maybe you graduate to the 172 color box, where you have all these different shades of green that are even slightly bluish and slightly yellowish and things like that. And you become just so much more in tune with what is being said, what is being maybe not said, and you're then able to pick out the crayon of the right color. Thank you for letting me overuse this analogy. The crayon of the right color to paint in that particular question, let's say, or next step in the discussion. So I think that it does change, but unless you really keep an eye out for, in this case, color, as you go through your years of experience, as you go through your coaching programs, as you go and deliberately practice, you know, there's a difference between having 20 years of experience or having 1 year of experience 20 times over. So experience is not enough. You have to really keep focusing with intention on expanding your color palette. And now I'm going to stop with this with this analogy, but it's a really, really good visual one. So good to great, definitely an interesting thing here. The stages of expertise go, if we look at just this slide here for just a second as a reminder. And again,
yeah, sorry, I wanted to say that it is a great reminder for ourselves. As Suzanne was saying, we are in development, right? We are always in development. So I'm not saying that I'm great, but that I am, I have an intention to keep trying to be great. So that is really, as a coach, at the being a developmental mindset that makes us keep on going and then keep great.
Yeah, it's thriving towards a thriving towards. And it's very, very lovely to always keep it in the back of your mind. It's like, try something new. Did it work? Did it not work? And so on. And I think that, sometimes it doesn't necessarily always take practice, but also peer reviews, talking to other coaches, supervision, whether it's one-on-one supervision or group supervision. I think it's all in an effort to move always forwards towards it. And there's no moment in time, I think, that any of us are going to sit there and say, okay, I'm done, I'm great. every engagement is going to be good. So in the course, they talked about new coaches being often guided by rules and tools. And the question is more about, how do I do this? What am I supposed to do here? Versus expert coaches will then be more and more guided by the client and the context, saying, what does the client need? What will be more useful to this person? And then providing that. Yeah. Thank you.
So just coming back to the first module, one other tool and image that really stood out to me, and I could connect to other training I have taken, is the development pipeline. Just having sort of a bit of diagnostic tool or mental framework to reference where is the coachee on the change continuum. And what I found really valuable for me is to make the connection to the ATCA model from ProSci in change management. As well, you need to be aware. That's the insight, right? If you're not aware, nothing will change. It needs to come to consciousness. And then there needs to be motivation and drive wanting to change. And then the questions, what do you need? Do you have the tools to do that? And then, as we said, with our development, you need to practice. And then as well, how do we know that things have changed and moved forward? It's the accountability piece. So yeah, different way, but same sort of framework in terms of change management, that we are from a current state wanting to go to a future state, and through the transition we need to hit all those phases in order to move forward. So I found that really helpful personally, because I could connect it to another model I'm working with.
Yeah, definitely. And I also found it very useful because you can kind of try to hone in, like, where is the bottleneck here? Because truly they call it the development pipeline. And it's really akin to this flow. And let's say it were like a pipeline that water flows through. If any one of those portions of the pipe is constricted, is less, then the water, it doesn't matter how big and open and performant the other sections are, that one is going to minimize the flow to whatever it's capable of. So this idea that all of these things need to be sufficiently open in order to allow for optimal flow. And that's actually a really nice word. Optimal flow, optimum learning, optimal transformation is in my book a really nice analogy, actually, this pipeline thing. In your experience, have you used this consciously, or is it just a part of your general thing already, or do you sometimes sit in in client meetings and say, oh, now I'm going to look at the development pipeline stages concretely?
I have used it to hone in or ask more questions to figure out where the bottleneck is. And at times it was clear that there's insight and motivation, but the how seemed to be the bottleneck. So in asking then, I asked, so why do you want to change whatever or move forward? And why is it important to you? What would be different? All those questions. And it came about, I want to change. I'm motivated, but don't really know how. So then confirmed that it's on the capabilities stage, and we agreed then to look at what would be helpful.
Yeah.
And really, focused energy in the focus was on that area.
Yeah. Because maybe one thing to point out was, yes, the pipeline is kind of this suggested, it's kind of this linear one after the other kind of thing of these stages connecting. On the other hand, it's more like lenses through which you look at the same situation at the same time. Meaning it's like, you know, at any moment in time, it's not like you say, oh, the insight's all done. Now we move on to motivation. They're intertwined. And maybe motivation can't really happen because capabilities aren't there, because there wasn't real world practice that allowed for these capabilities to build. So it's kind of like in parallel, you look at the same situation through these various lenses. Again, the bottleneck still exists, usually in one of these areas. So it's good to think of it that way. But again, it's really finding out where in these stages or portions does the main issue lie, because there's no need to continue working on insight if ultimately there's no real world practice happening. So let's then move to that.
And so I'm just curious, it is my understanding that it is foundational, like you need to have insight first. It doesn't, and maybe I didn't understand correctly, but it was my understanding that without insight, it doesn't matter how much you work on the real world practice, because there's no connection.
You're right, and I let Katsuko also jump in here in just a second. Yes, but once you're done with insight, doesn't mean you do not need to revisit it. Meaning
that's correct. Yeah.
In the end, after you have worked on the issue with your client for a little while, all of these things you're looking at the same time, because there's a very strong interplay. You know, as you start addressing capabilities, for instance, maybe there were some issues about motivation that need more work. And you come back and it becomes this whole interrelated thing. I think that, you know, saying, okay, now I'm done with that. Let's not talk about it anymore. It's forever cast in stone. That's not really how you. Excellent, Suzanne. You know, excellent point to bring it up and re-clarify for all of us. Have you used this tool, Katsuko?
Sorry, to find the my cursor to unmute myself. Yes, I think that this is really great reference tool for diagnostic. As Suzanne said, that what's the bottleneck, but especially at the beginning of the relationship, when the clients and bringing in the issue they would like to work on. You know, just to scan through, okay, that in where they are, in a sense, that what's the focus, that what matters most in this this time with the client, where to focus. That's kind of we using this diagnostic tool can kind of give me the sense of, okay, all right, there is enough motivation, but where there is, as Susan said, where is that they are stuck in a sense, or that the usually that the to confirm that there is accountability is there or not. That after we kind of discussed the things, how to move, and then by throwing that question, that it's more of making sure to solidify that what they are, their action plan is more realistic. And then so I use, in a sense, that to focus on myself, to make sure that which area is more matters for the client right this time, and what else that I need to think about to make sure that the client can apply what we are talking about.
Yeah, so it would be like, imagine that you have a client and it's kind of the first meeting, and they are absolutely convinced that it is a capabilities issue. They struggle with a capability, with a skill, and it is very, very obvious to them that that's what it is. And the fallacy here would be to jump into that as the coach and really say, yeah, that's the skill thing. Now let's set that as a goal, and let's let's come up with an action plan on how to address this skill, without maybe taking a step back and say, well, where does this fit into the whole landscape, let's say, of insight, motivation, real world practice, accountability, and so on. And then to maybe it is very well a capabilities thing and all the other things are ironed out, but it behooves us to check, doesn't it? And oftentimes,
why? Sometimes that the motivation is it's affecting about the building the capabilities, right? That if many people is leading their life that I should, those should is that the flag, in a sense. You can push yourself to a certain extent, but with the should motivation, need to dig in what's really moving you, otherwise that it is so hard to build the capability too. So that's
maybe the reason why I do not have this capability yet is because something is truly resisting it, and the insight that you might need might very well be, well, this is not really worth my while, or it's not aligned with my values, or it is a should rather than want to, and so on. So you go and you peel back these layers, and you just go deeper than just the first thing that gets served to you on a silver platter as the issue to work on today or during the whole coaching engagement.
Well, and I think it speaks to, and I think you mentioned it already, Claudia, that behavior is driven by motives and purpose. And if you want to change something, you can change it maybe in the capabilities, learning some new skills. If it's not really connected to your purpose and to your values, then there will be always a bit of tension that in the long run is not helpful and might even lead to overwhelm and burnout. So really digging into the why and into the alignment, and moving then from there, then you might find out, yes, you need capabilities, but what we thought, or you thought, you need in terms of skills or competencies, is not really it. Or there's a nuance to it, and adding something else onto really would enhance the outcomes. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
And there was actually in one of the handouts this thing about maybe the coach's perspective. You know, what some of the things that might play into it. You know, different ways, different activities, different lines of questioning. You know, whatever specific form this takes, obviously depends on the client and you know, the coach's capabilities and preferences. But it's you know, it can go very deep very quickly, and but in the end, it's something that you know, the client has to figure out as well as he or she does the work. So yeah, the development pipeline, definitely, whether we look at it as a diagnostic thing, where does it, is it rather obvious that the issue is, to taking a step back and looking at, you know, the effect of all of these different areas on this current idea, let's say, of where the issue might lie, but then also maybe as a tool to move through and addressing each of these different areas that ultimately need to all happen really well and be taken care of in order for the flow to happen as it said. So definitely a powerful tool. I have not used it in that I would show this tool or this graphic to the client, but it guides, it's very in line with the way that I look at things anyway. And so it kind of guides my inner landscape and thinking as I consider all the different areas to maybe address. And sorry, I'm still dealing with COVID symptoms. And so it's not a tool that I use necessarily and introduce as such to the client, but it's an internal guide for me to not forget something, not forget a particular important area. Yeah. Have you shown this model to your clients?
No, this is as you said, Claudia, to me, this is not something that I show to the client. This is my internal kind of checklist type of thing that it says that in the model that you know, rather than a linear series of steps, but it's a check mark of, in a sense that looking at the client, okay, you know, where did I explore with the client yet? And is there any stacking point or, you know, the clue to the unstacking? So that's something that for me, very useful to have like a framework of the where the client is right now in this particular issue. And so.
And aren't a lot of models and frameworks like that, ultimately, that they guide us, they give us kind of maybe a mental, cognitive structure to you know, maybe not forget about certain areas and get too embroiled in the situation or the discussion with the client of the moment, but always kind of keep this overview and so on. So
yeah, just to jump in there, for me as well, it's an internal guide to make sure that there is a strong foundation where we build whatever outcomes are on. Like if you use the analogy of building a house, if you're just working on capabilities, you might have the great facade and fantastic yard, but if you're not started at the inside, then the foundation might not be as strong, and the first windstorm, everything falls apart. So it's really to make sure all the components are there for success and in the right order.
Yeah. Well, I think that what Susan said to me is that it's our conscious choice. It gives us that where we focus, in a particular point, and then we can make the consciously the choosing what we're gonna do. So.
Because again, we need kind of markers like that, I think, because there's so much happening in our brains as coaches, as we are in an engagement. We look at the here and now, we look at the overall arc of the engagement. We are so focused on the energy in the room. There's so much happening, and it would be fairly easy to forget one. Yeah, like, oh, I came out of this thing and we made great progress, but we didn't touch on accountability, for instance. And that would be a pity, because you missed talking about that very important point in the energy and the moment that the work was being done. And so I think that's truly important. Good. Any other thing that stuck out, or did we touch on the highlights out of module 1 or the practica?
I think so. I
think for me, highlighted the main point. It's the good to great, the importance of the action reflection cycle, and the tool of the development pipeline. Those were really main takeaways for me.
Yeah, same here.
Then again, I think that out of the practica, that 3-word question exercise really was a powerful aha thing as an exercise, really how little you need to say and how concise your questions can be.
I'm still working on it.
Right? Yeah, that's just,
yep.
Sometimes I find myself, because I'm a talker, you guys know I'm a talker, it's obviously I'm a talker, but just ask the question succinctly and shut up. Don't offer possible alternatives, don't expand, don't whatever, just, yeah. And sometimes it's like the client has been talking and making progress for an hour, and you have maybe said 10 things. But as long as the client really makes important things, if the client is able to use the space in himself, then you don't need to say, well, did I add value? I only said 10 things. Well, yeah, you did, because the client has been actively working on a hopefully relatively deep level for an hour. Of course, there's the value. You don't need to talk to add value. Just say the right.
And as we all know, the English is not our first languages, all 3 of us, right? So we all know that the communication has the verbal and nonverbal, and the nonverbal is much bigger role. So the presence is the important thing. We all know that's how that we create the settings, and then the attitude, and what we're going to bring in to the space. So that's short, concise, succinct questions, and not try to rephrase because that the English is not the first language. That doesn't work. You don't have to worry about that.
I'm just, thanks for bringing that up, and it so spurs another thought, the cultural differences not being, not the language, and all 3 of us have different upbringings in different cultures, what biases do we bring that might subconsciously influence how we are in a coaching relationship, and what a gift potentially seeing things through different perspectives, and with that unearthing subconscious traits in our coachees.
We could talk for hours about that particular topic, and maybe we should at some point after we're done with the modules revisit that. So could you please park that topic as maybe an interesting topic of discussion, because it is so true. And I also agree with Katsuko. It is this idea of presence.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of clients do the work because we are so intensely listening and present and absorbing and interested and intentional about what's happening, and it really does make a big difference. Our time is up. Oh my God, time just flew by. You guys, thank you so much for your wonderful insights, and it definitely has refreshed my memory about this learning that's now several months ago. Maybe just one sentence as a wrap up for each of us. And was this helpful to you, Katsuko?
Yes, definitely, to kind of refresh my memory, but also that the in the present moment at the still working on it, the developmental stage. That's something that a good reminder for myself. Thank you.
Fantastic. Suzanne?
Same here. To me, what comes up is that's really practicing the action reflection cycle, and we were in reflection and doing it with others, going through the same program. It's just so much richer than reviewing the material by myself. So really appreciate all your thoughts and insights that just helps me in expanding and having a richer reflection.
Thank you. For me, it was two-pronged. First of all, it was a meeting on the calendar. It forced me to kind of sit down and look at the material again, which otherwise would just sit on a hard drive or in a binder. So that's already good. But then just exchanging about it, bouncing ideas, hearing you guys' perspectives on things, and very helpful for me. So I truly do thank you. We will be back with hopefully more about module 2 going forward. There were 6 modules in total, and some business modules for those who took the enhanced program. So thank you so much. I will make this public on YouTube if you guys are okay with that, and we will see each other very soon. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.